So maybe you recently broke up with somebody who you think is a more avoidant individual, perhaps somebody who's fearing commitment quite frequently, or ends up in a situation where they shut down or dismiss too many emotions. Well, in this particular case, something that is super interesting is just how often avoidant partners reemerge or return in some form after no contact, even if they originally seemed like they were completely done for good. Now, their answer or the answer to this actually lies in their attachment style and in the fact that through their own attachment patterns, often they will pull away after a breakup for a period of time, but then have a bit of this rebound effect. So, in today's video, we're going to unpack the deep understanding and awareness of why avoidant partners suddenly come back after no contact even if they do seem done for good. And we're going to talk about if you're confused by them reemerging, what it actually means, because it doesn't just mean that they're ready to get back into a relationship. It can mean a multitude of things. And most importantly, we will talk about the real reasons this happens and how to approach this person without losing yourself in the mix. And honestly, some of these things today may really surprise you and even surprise the way that you're used to thinking about avoidant attachment styles if you're already familiar with this topic. And if you're not, one thing you just need to know for this whole video is that an avoidant attachment style is somebody who minimizes their needs for attachment when they start to develop feelings. It's a form of self-protection and self-preservation. And so they tend to be the commitment fearing person, or they tend to not want to open up. So we're going to unpack all of this here in this video today. I want to take you through a really particular exercise in today's video because I want you to be able to understand more deeply the psyche of the avoidant attachment style, and then also the examples of what is going on and how to break through. So I'll actually share my screen here with you, and I want to just start by defining what an avoidant attachment style is. Now, if you're not already familiar, we have right here an avoidant attachment style is essentially a pattern of emotional characteristics that really depict a person's tendency to avoid emotional closeness and also diminish the importance of relationships as a means of self protection. So, what you have is a person who grew up with wounds around emotional closeness. And as a result of this, they end up wanting to keep pushing emotional closeness away as adults to protect themselves from having to deal with or feel those wounds from childhood again. Now, avoidant attachment styles are one of four major attachment styles, and the basic operating system that they are governed by is this idea of their feelings minus their fears. And what I mean by this is that somebody who has an avoidant attachment style is still going to fall into infatuation with others. They're still going to feel attraction towards others. They're still going to develop feelings with other people. But particularly avoidant attachment style will start to develop feelings. And once those feelings become too real or they feel too attached, their own feelings will start to scare them, which will surface these subconscious wounds from childhood. Now, if you've ever seen the idea of the Freudian iceberg diagram that depicts the conscious, the subconscious, and the unconscious, what we have here above the tip of the waterline or the tip of the iceberg is the conscious mind. It's responsible for roughly 3 to 5% of your beliefs, your thoughts, your emotions, your actions. Then we have our subconscious mind making up this majority of what's beneath the surface. And that is responsible, including with your unconscious mind, this very bottom tip of the iceberg, those collectively are responsible for 95 to 97% of your beliefs, your thoughts, your emotions, your actions. So, what often happens for an avoidant attachment style is they will have this experience of going, I have really good, strong feelings for this person. Those feelings start to get more and more real. And the moment that they start to really attach these stored subconscious fears, okay, so in other words, these fears that we have that come from previous experiences, okay, let me just give you an example here. If you've ever had a feeling, let's say, of somebody really criticizing you in your childhood, if it happened repetitively enough or if it hurt you enough, it will fire and wire neural pathways, which will cause you to have an imprint at the subconscious level. And years later, you may fear somebody making you feel not good enough again, or you may be extra sensitive to criticism. The same thing happens for all of us all the time. And the most clear avoidant attachment style example is that they have this dynamic where they feel a pain that takes place from connection. They feel this sense of suffering because they do not get their needs adequately met in childhood. And when they try to open up and connect emotionally, it often gets diminished or dismissed. And so now they have this deep subconscious set of fears and beliefs that if I open up emotionally again, I will be seen as weak or incapable or defective, like something's wrong with me. Or they may even fear ending up feeling emotionally unsafe or trapped with the wrong person who will diminish their actual need for emotional connection. And they tend to believe that really nobody's available for that. So they try to push their own needs for emotional connection down, compartmentalize them, repress them all the time. So now we have this person who, has an adult, is terrified of connecting, and they may appear on the surface in the early stages of a relationship like they're available for connection. They may be charming, charismatic, available to, make an effort, put an effort into relationships, but the moment things get real, that's when they're going to end up pulling back. So, if you have somebody who fears these things, what can we do? Well, one of the first things that we can do is, after a breakup takes place, what you'll often see is that this is what impacts a dismissive avoidant the most. Because if they have these feelings for somebody that they're developing, once that person is really close in proximity, it's triggering those fears. It's causing those fears to sort of be drummed up from the subconscious level here, and they're made aware of them, right? They fear being too close and seen as weak or incapable. They fear ending up with the wrong person or being trapped or emotionally unsafe. The more that somebody is really close and that attachment bond is being built. But if somebody goes away, now those fears cannot get poked at, right? There's no catalyst for those subconscious fears to now come to the surface. So all of a sudden, we have an individual who their fears subside. They basically go back down into the subconscious mind, and now they go back into feeling their feelings. I have exciting news to share with you today, and it is that to celebrate the Personal Development School's 5-year anniversary, we are offering 40% off of your first month to our all access pass. Plus, you can enjoy 20% off of my newest book called Learning Love, both of which are all about how to change your attachment style to become securely attached. So, whether you are looking to improve your relationships, personally grow, or just develop a lot of emotional mastery over the way that you feel, now is the perfect time to start. But hurry, because this offer won't last long. So head over to the link below to join today. Generally, this tends to happen at a cadence of about 6 weeks after no contact, where they've had enough time and space to feel like, okay, I don't have to fear all of these things that I started to feel when I got attached to somebody. And now they start to really get back in touch with their feelings. It's part of why an avoidant tends to really fall in love when there's space in a relationship, is because they're always operating from this sort of equation of their feelings minus their fears of connection. But what do we do about this? Well, generally, the action steps, if you aren't already are no contact, are to go no contact for about 6 weeks. Sometimes it can take 6 weeks to up to 3 months before a dismissive avoidant is ready to really feel their feelings again, lower their guard, and think about, or reconsider entering back into a relationship. But then we have something called the reconnection phase. Now, the reconnection phase generally lasts for 8 weeks after contact begins. Okay, so what I mean by this, if you see this right here, is that, let's say you go no contact for 6 weeks. You may reach back out at around the 6 week to 3 month mark, when we know an avoidant is sort of primed to be in their feelings more than in their fears. And at that period of time specifically, we have an 8 week warming up cycle. We do not jump right back into a relationship the moment we reconnect with a dismissive avoidant. No, we actually reconnect slowly but surely over time. We may start with some light text messages for the first week or two, warm up to going, for coffee or having some phone calls, to eventually going on a few dates. And after a few weeks of dating, that is when we enter into important phase 3. Now, there's a huge caveat for all of this. Okay. And it's that phase 3 is the hard conversation phase. Here's what you don't want to happen. What you do not want to happen as a person is that you end up going through a relationship with somebody who's not fully emotionally available, still pining after them weeks after no contact, going through no contact, an 8 week reconnection phase, having a hard conversation, going back into a relationship. Maybe the relationship's good for 3 months and then back up at square one. So, how do we prevent this from happening? Well, number one, we set a deadline before we even do this. This is the hard conversation phase, but there's like this umbrella around this. You set a deadline. You decide how long you're going to participate in this relationship without the person being fully available to commit, without you seeing that needle really move. And once we've gone through that first important part here of deciding, okay, you know what, I'm going to try to work this relationship out for maybe 3 months. And if I don't see the needle move and this person's not willing to do the work in the relationship, they're not willing to be more emotionally available, overcome their fears, talk about them, address them, let their guard down. If I'm not seeing those green flags, then I have to be the one to leave that relationship because it's not going to be a good fit for me. And I don't want to just keep recontinuing this cycle with an avoidant. So this primes us for what we call the hard conversation phase, which really looks like, as we fill this out together, we need to talk about needs in a relationship. Okay, we need to actually bring up to the table, hey, we've we broke up, we were no contact for a while, we've been reconnecting for the past couple months, and obviously I'd like to see this go somewhere in the future, and I do still have feelings here, but there's a few things I need to know in order to consider really going full steam ahead together. And this is, I'd like to for us to be able to talk about our needs, how we can meet each other's needs. I'd like for us to talk about how we're going to communicate more openly. And I would like for us to talk about how we can be more mindful of each other's boundaries so we don't get into fights and arguments that tear the relationship apart later. Are you willing to have a conversation? Are you willing to work with me on these things? Okay, so we're looking at communication patterns, we're looking at boundaries, we're looking at needs. If we can start having these conversations, we see the dismissive avoidant rise to the occasion for this, where they're going to learn to express their needs better. So are you. You're going to learn to both express your boundaries better. And you're going to work to communicate in healthier, more direct and vulnerable ways. This is a big green light. Now, of course, we can't just have somebody say this. We have to see the actions that follow. If somebody sabotages this conversation, pushes the conversation away, you have a clear answer that somebody is not in a position to be fully available the way that you need, and you have a pretty good likelihood of ending back up at square one, which we don't want. So these are three important steps to take. Now, I do have a free course that's all about the reconnection phase in general and goes into a lot of detail. And it literally is all about how to reconnect with an avoidant attachment style and some really powerful ways to do just that, how to monitor the periods of no contact, but how to properly set a deadline in a lot of detail. If you want to do a deeper dive, you can check that course out fully for free, just for a limited time down below. And that same link will give you access to the entire personal development school with all of our different courses and programs to really target any area of your life where you're feeling stuck with worksheets, workbooks. We also have daily support groups that are there with trained facilitators, coaches, counselors for you to dive in, to have that extra support, that live question and answer. And I'm in there 3 days a week as well if you want to communicate with me directly over video, over chat. So if you need extra support, we are here. If you enjoyed today's video, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel, and hit the notification bell because I put daily videos out here on YouTube, all about these types of dynamics. So if you hit the notification bell, you won't miss any. Thank you so much for stopping by and for watching. I can't wait to see you in the next video.